From the demented minds of John Wayne Gacy to the Son of Sam, we count down 10 of the weirdest books written by serial killers. Number 10. The Trinity of Super Kids. Charles Kembo was arrested and convicted of killing 4 people. It all started in 2003, with his mother disappearing without a trace. The same year, his business associate Arden Samuel was found in Vancouver Park, castrated and strangled. About a year later, his girlfriend's body was discovered in a hockey rink back in Richmond, British Columbia. In 2005, the body of his 20-year-old stepdaughter was found in between a bunch of garbage bags. Kembo was arrested by authorities just a few days after her body was found. He's currently serving a life sentence. The 372-page book, The Trinity of Super Kids, Book 1, Quest for Water, by J.D. Bauer, is apparently Kembo's book. In an interview during his trial, he claimed that he is the writer of this children's fictional book. Number 9. The Making of a Serial Killer. Danny Rolling murdered 5 college kids back in 1990 in Gainesville, Florida. Rolling camped out in the woods of the campus where he raped and stabbed 4 women and 1 man. The murders took place over 2 days, and one of the victims was found sitting up with severed limbs displayed on a shelf. Rolling pleaded guilty in 1994 and was found guilty of murder on 5 counts. The Making of a Serial Killer was written by Rawlings and his former fiancée, Sandra London, before his death. The book was published in 1996 and contains stories of rape and murder. Number 8. Zeka. Sakakibara Saito is an alias for a young Japanese boy who killed 2 children in 1997. He was only 14 when he was arrested for killing an 11-year-old boy named Jun Haas. While in prison, he also confessed to killing a 10-year-old boy named Ayaka Yamashita. 7 years later, he was released, and in 2005, he wrote an autobiography called Zeka. Before the book was released, the families of Saito's victims were informed, and Saito sent copies of the book to his victims' families, with a note attached claiming his remorse. Number 7. Son of Hope. David Berkowitz is an American murderer who killed 6 people and injured 7 over the course of 14 months, from July 1976 to August 1977. He targeted women with long dark hair as well as couples in parked cars. His weapon of choice was a .44 caliber. Authorities gave him the nickname the Son of Sam. Berkowitz was arrested in 1977, and he ended up pleading guilty and is currently serving 6 life sentences. During his time in prison, Berkowitz has found refuge in God and wrote the book Son of Hope. His book describes life in prison and his rebirth into Christianity, and any profit from Son of Sam goes to the victims of his crimes. Number 6. The Gate of Janus. Ian Brady and his girlfriend Myra Hindley were convicted of murder in 1966 for the deaths of 3 children. Their victims were between the ages of 10 to 17 years old. They were all brutally killed with hatchet blows to their bodies, and some were raped. In Brady's book, The Gates of Janus, he tries to take the readers into the mind of a serial killer. He also includes famous sequence murders of John Wayne Gacy and Ted Bundy in his book. Number 5. Final Truth. Donald Gaskins, also known as the meanest man in America, was a serial killer and admitted to killing 13 people by stabbing and drowning his victims. It's uncertain how many people he killed, but he was found guilty of 8 murders. However, in his biography, Final Truth, he writes that he killed 110 people, one of them being a young child whom he raped and murdered. Number 4. Killer Fiction. G.J. Schaefer was convicted of 2 murders, but authorities believe he was a serial killer. He died in 1995, but before his death, he claimed to have murdered 80 women. Schaefer was sent to jail in 1973 for murdering 2 teenage girls, but he often mentioned other murders while he was in prison. In 1990, Sandra London published some of his novella in the book Killer Fiction. Number 3. A Question of Doubt. One of the most well-known serial killers was John Wayne Gacy, and he murdered 33 people who were from the ages of 9 to 20. Some of his victims were friends and employees, but most of them were runaways. Once Gacy lured his victims to his house, he would torture and rape them and bury them underneath his house or in a nearby river. Fortunately, a few of his victims lived, and eventually Gacy was arrested. A total of 28 bodies were found under his house, and 5 more turned up in rivers. He was convicted of these heinous crimes in 1980 and was put to death by lethal injection in 1994. However, before his death, he wrote a book A Question of Doubt, where he claimed that other people were responsible for the bodies under his house. In his book, he wrote, "This is not a biography covering my whole life, though a minute comment of calamity we lived from December 11th, 1978 until March 13th, 1980. This is a story of a mixture of lies and disturbed deceit combined by military and news media." A Question of Doubt isn't in print anymore, but in 1993, 500 books were published. Number 2. Killer. Carl Panzram claimed he murdered 21 people and did a number of burglaries and arsons and sodomized more than 1,000 people in different countries. He claimed to have bought a yacht and killed 10 passengers after sodomizing and robbing them and dumped their bodies overboard. Killer, a Journal of Murder, was written by James Long and Thomas E. Gaddis and includes Panzram's letters and biography. Number 1. The Strange Case of Dr. H. H. Holmes. Herman Mudgett, also known as Dr. H. H. Holmes, is noted to be the first American serial killer. He confessed to killing 27 people, but a lot of people believe he killed around 200 people. Mudgett moved to Chicago and bought a city block that he renovated and changed into a hotel, later known to be his murder castle. He opened the hotel in 1893. The hotel wasn't your typical one. It had rooms with no windows, staircases that led nowhere, and hallways with dead ends in it. It also had rooms without doors, and the walls had built-in gas jets, disposal chutes, and a kiln in the basement. When police finally caught on to Mudgett's horror hotel, they found a fake wall that led to a cellar and discovered bones, bloody clothes, a butcher's table, and a crematory. He opened the hotel around the same time as the World's Fair, which brought people from all over to his hotel. The Strange Case of Dr. H. H. Holmes contains confessions from Mudgett, which were published prior to his execution.